Excitebike for the Wii. Not technically a retro game, I know, but it is the spiritual successor to one of the most enduringly popular NES games. That said, barring the name, there's not a lot to connect the Wii game with Excitebike. Hell, there's not a lot to connect it with Excitebike 64. Despite this though, Excitebike is a pretty good game in its own right. Being an early Wii release, Excitebike is built around its motion controls. You hold the Wii remote on its side and tilt it left and right to steer, pressing a button to accelerate, and any direction on the D-pad to activate the boost. It's not really what I'd call precise, and at first you'll be crashing a lot as you get used to the slippery handling. If this was a regular racer controlled with an analog stick, it would have felt horrible, but somehow it works. The fact that you're actually moving your body gives you a real connection to the madly careening vehicle you're controlling, and trying desperately to keep it on the straight and narrow means that the game really lives up to its name. Every second of Excitebike is exciting, and even an experienced player has to keep their wits about them. A momentary lapse of concentration and a stray bump in the road will see you getting much better acquainted with the nearest tree. On top of the Wii-specific controls, Excitebike has a unique and interesting scoring system. Progression is determined not by how many opponents you beat across the finish line, but by collecting a certain number of stars earned in typical Burnout fashion. Drifting, jumping, smashing other racers off the track, it all adds up to your target score, and the better you do at each action, the more stars you get. You also get stars for performing stunts, jumping through hoops, or placing well on the podium. So, whilst it's very useful to win because it nets you 50 stars, it's not absolutely necessary, and in the early stages it's quite possible to come last and still succeed. Later on, when the target score starts to rise, you're going to want to do well in the races, and that means using the boost, whose temperature must be carefully controlled. Use it too much and your engine overheats, causing you to slow down and lose valuable time. The key to continuous boosting is to cool your engine with water, and learning where it lies on the track is all part of the game. Tracks will often pose branching paths, giving you the choice between some hilly terrain in which to rack up stunt bonuses, or a flooded lowland to make up some places in the race. The tracks are well designed, but they are a bit lacking in variety. Each is set in one of 6 different countries, but with no national landmarks to speak of. This really translates to 6 different environments. So for Mexico, read desert, and for Finland, read snow. Despite this, each has its own character via the scripted events. These are triggered by running through special pickups on the track which deform the landscape ahead and open up shortcuts and more opportunities to score stars. The vehicle design is decent and there are a good number to choose from, each with its own stats that cater to a host of different driving styles. Whether you're good for scoring stars in the air or on the ground, you'll find something to suit you, and the unlockable paint jobs for each gives a motivation for completionists to put each through its paces. There's a lot to keep you busy in Excitebike, with the main campaign offering seemingly endless hours of racing. Yes, you are going to be playing the same tracks over and over with increasingly harsh star requirements, but I was so enthralled by the gameplay that it didn't bother me. The difficulty curve is slight at first, but later events provide an enjoyable challenge. Throw in the challenge mode, where you have to complete certain special tasks, and getting 100% is an elusive but very tempting target. With such an excellent single-player experience, it's a shame that Excitebike's multiplayer is so lackluster. Only 2 players are supported, and the lack of AI races to compete with strips the game of a lot of its thrill. With only 2 trucks on the track, the stars earned from finishing in front of the other player become much more useful than any others, so doing the risky things that make the game fun just isn't worth the slim reward. So, is Excitebike worth picking up? Well, if you have a Wii and are struggling to find things to play, then give it a try. The playful handling and motion controls won't be to everyone's taste, but if you can get into it, there's a lot to like. It may not be able to match the success of Burnout or Motorstorm, but it's one of the very few games I've played where failure isn't an obstacle. It's just an excuse to keep playing.